Today on CityCast Nashville, it's time for our Friday news roundup. The federal government is shut down, and sadly, so is 100 Taylor Arts. Meanwhile, turnout in our special congressional election is abysmal. I'm joined by producer Daniel Sumstein and Nashville Banner staff reporter Sarah Grace Taylor to dig deeper into these and the other big news stories of the week and bring you some good news that will hopefully turn our moods around. Vamos, Nashville! It's Friday, October 3rd. I'm your executive producer, Whitney Pasterek, and this is what Nashville's talking about. Before we start, let's welcome our new CityCast Nashville neighbor, Kelly H. Everybody say hi, Kelly.
Hi, Kelly.
She is getting great perks and exclusive content because she signed up to support this show. You can do it too. Go to membership.citycast.fm. Meanwhile, the federal government remains shut down because although Republicans control all three branches of government, it takes 60 votes in the Senate to pass a continuing resolution to fund the government. Democratic senators are holding out in hopes that they can negotiate with Republicans to extend the Affordable Care Act enhanced health care subsidies that are set to expire at the end of the year. Without those subsidies, people who purchase their health coverage on the healthcare.gov marketplace could expect to see their health insurance premium payments more than double next year, according to the Kaiser Family Foundation. Daniel, Sarah Grace, how are we feeling about all this?
Not great. It's interesting that this happened during the last Trump presidency as well. It just seems to be a recurring trend in a way. But yeah, a lot of people are going to be impacted by this. It's really just a sad situation all around.
Yeah, shutdowns have become pretty popular in the last few decades. I think there's been almost 24 since the 70s. So it's alarming every time because you don't know how long it's going to go or who will end up impacted by that. But it's not exactly preventable at this point, it seems, in politics.
Well, looking locally, Fox 17 estimates more than 32,000 federal employees across Tennessee are affected, and many of them have to keep working without pay until the shutdown ends. Daniel, who are some examples of that?
Some TSA employees, active duty troops at Fort Campbell, and the Tennessee National Guard are all working without pay, as are our air traffic controllers, in the same week that the Tennessean reported the shortage in air traffic controllers at BNA could have a disastrous effect. Nashville's air traffic is managed by fewer controllers than 20 years ago, while daily passenger volumes are at a record high, and BNA airspace is expanded by a 5-mile radius. The Tennessean story quoted recently retired BNA air traffic controller Garold Graves, who said, "It's like a ticking time bomb. Sooner or later, something has to go wrong." So that's fun.
And of course, it's gone wrong in other cities this year. Like air traffic control has been an oncoming problem for a while.
Well, listen, y'all, if this shutdown is impacting you, we want to hear from you. Email us at nashville@citycast.fm and share your thoughts. And speaking of BNA, after last month's traffic gridlock nightmare, airport authority officials are studying the new rideshare pickup and drop-off location to evaluate whether that's part of the problem. According to WKRN, rideshare drivers have tried to tell the airport that the new system is a problem. Y'all, I haven't flown since they put that new system in. Daniel, I know you have. What do y'all think of it?
Yeah, so I actually flew out like 2 days after this whole ordeal happened, and it wasn't as bad, but honestly, it wasn't much better. We sat in traffic for about 30 minutes before we got to the arrivals section.
I've not taken a ride share since they did this, but I've driven to the airport to pick people up and been driven to the airport. And it's just such a disaster down there now. And even like cell phone waiting, being on Murfreesboro Road, I can't imagine this gets easier when they do construction around the tunnel.
Oh, the tunnel. We're not talking about the tunnel today, Sarah Grace.
Okay.
It does make sense, though, if you think about it, that if all arrivals and departure pickups for rideshare are in the exact same place, of course there's going to be a cluster. Like the airport is designed the way it is for a reason, where like departures come in down here. And, you know, if you're picking somebody up, it's up here. Like that is split for a reason.
Right.
It's hard to be an airport.
In other shutdown news, more than 80 local businesses and nonprofits have suddenly been displaced by the closure of 100 Taylor Arts, which is an old industrial building in Germantown that's become a really communal space with a coffee shop, art galleries. It's just a really great space with great vibes.
I love that place. Like, it just is a place that to me feels like it's full of creativity and collaboration. And I don't really understand what happened. But Sarah Grace, you reported this story for the Banner.
Yeah, so mid-September, though I couldn't get a straight answer on the date, fire marshals shut down the whole building, and all of the businesses and nonprofits within the building got a stop work order, meaning they can't go in. I talked to a few people who are tenants, and it sounds like they basically were told it would be a few days, and then after the few days hit, they were told it would be 4 to 6 weeks for these repairs. I spoke to one owner. She's a hairstylist named Unity Anderson who works out of 100 Taylor. And when we originally spoke, she still didn't know what was wrong with the building or why it had been shut down. So there's been some communication issues with tenants. But the codes department of the city says that there are some pretty significant ADA noncompliance issues, as well as fire alert systems. I think both alarms and sprinklers are missing. So pretty heavy work to do.
Yeah. What other kinds of businesses and nonprofits have been impacted?
They do a bunch of art exhibits. So there's a lot of people who kind of are more temporary tenants. And there are also dozens of businesses that operate out of there. So people like Unity, who's a hairstylist, and other, if you think of like small contractor businesses like that, as well as the owners themselves, they've got this big expensive building that they operate that now they're going to have to put, I think they said, more than $20,000 of repairs into, and be shut down for 6 weeks while they're not collecting rent, which is a bit of an existential threat to a space like that.
Is there anywhere else for these folks to go?
I understand that Councilmember Coupin and the business owners have been helping some people find other spaces to work, but it's kind of a mixed bag. I don't think there's one landing spot for everyone who's impacted by this.
Am I once again being a conspiracy theorist if I find it odd that this building that has been the hub for not just artists, but also progressive organizers, nonprofits, that this suddenly came under the radar of codes and the fire marshal? I can't help but feel like there's got to be a ton of other buildings in the city that have some of the same flaws.
It feels like a fair question to have. So my understanding is that a business within 100 Taylor had requested a new kind of permit. And when that business was inspected, it became evident to whoever did the inspection that these ADA and other concerns existed in the building. I will say that a spokesperson for the owners told me that they've had other inspections before and this hadn't come up. But I don't know. I don't think it was out of nowhere. It was out of this issuing a new permit.
Well, if you want to support the existing / former tenants of 100 Taylor Arts, you can go to their website at 100taylor.com and just click on tenants to get a list of everybody who's in there. Head to their Instagrams or their websites and do what you can to help these folks stay alive. Because as we know, rents in Nashville are astronomical. And part of the glory of this building was it gave people the opportunity to have a small business, a small art studio, a small nonprofit, and not have to pay through the nose. So let's use our community to help keep these people going until hopefully that building reopens.
And be kind to TSA agents. I wouldn't normally say that, but they're not getting paid right now.
The first block of today's podcast is just be nice to each other, please.
Be nice to your Uber driver.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Right.
I love that. And we're back with Sarah Grace Taylor from the Nashville Banner and producer Daniel Sumstein. Sarah Grace, you reported a massive story for the Nashville Banner last Friday after newly released dashboard and body cam footage gave us a little more insight into how the Tennessee Highway Patrol and ICE conducted their immigration dragnet here in Nashville in early May, when they disappeared nearly 200 people from our city. And we still don't know all the names of those who were taken or where they are now. Sarah Grace, can you set the scene for us? What's in this footage?
This is a second set of footage we've gotten of the same stop, which so far is the only footage we've gotten. And it's a stop in which we heard that a Metro cop had stopped a gentleman for a registration issue, I believe it was. So like a very standard traffic stop. Metro was not participating in this raid. And then a trooper who had just gone out for the night with ICE agents in tow did a U-turn on Murfreesboro Pike, came up behind them and took over the stop. We requested this footage back in May, right after this incident, and got Metro's footage back in June. We wrote about the issue of them commandeering the stop, but it took us until last week to finally get the video from the Tennessee Highway Patrol. And that footage that you're talking about now gave little more information about the actual stop, and in fact redacted further the identities of the officers and the trooper and the agents involved in that stop. but it did record about a 10-minute conversation between an ICE agent and a trooper who drove the person in custody across town.
What kinds of stuff do you talk about while you're driving around looking for people to randomly pick up off the street?
So they were talking about kind of the flaws in the operation. So this was Thursday and it had started on Saturday. And they were saying that like every night, the way that they transported people in custody to the place in North Nashville where they were holding them had changed. So at one point, vans were coming to pick them up. And another point, including this night, they were driving to go meet a van at like an unmarked DEA building off of Nolensville Pike. And so they talked about that. They talked about the ICE agent was very proudly saying that they rarely appear in court because these removals are happening so fast that people aren't really showing up before a judge before they're getting sent out of the country or self-deporting, as they say. I don't want to say they were cavalier, but they were just talking about how great of a start it was to the night that they had been able to take over this metro stop and turn a registration stop into an immigration arrest.
One thing that stood out to me in your story about this was the part of the video where ICE agent asks, are the locals in tune to what's going on? And the trooper says, no, not at all. If people will remember, our mayor has been under constant attack from Republicans saying that he, obstructed this and that the city was doing everything they could to prevent this lawful, quote unquote, ICE operation from happening. Doesn't sound like that was in fact true based on this footage.
Yeah, and part of the criticism against Freddie O'Connell from the Republicans has been that he was, quote, doxing these agents who were involved. Because he had at one point a pretty detailed incident report for each interaction that Metro had with immigration, and that had started before this particular operation. So this incident, for example, had more information on it and then was later edited to have less information on it because he was accused of doxing, and there's been this move to conceal the identity of ICE agents who are involved. So that's where the criticism from the right has been for O'Connell, who also got criticism early on, if you remember, from people on the left who thought that he didn't do enough to stop this or had in some way facilitated this happening, which I think this video shows like Metro was neither getting in the way of or facilitating what was happening. They were just kind of happening in a whole separate vacuum from what ICE and THP were doing.
It's so disheartening because I feel like it's like a game to them. These are human beings, but it's like a game of catch to them, which is just gross.
Yeah, there's like a sport element to the way they talk about it, for sure.
Like, got him, and it's like, this is a human being here.
Yeah, it's not a Pokemon.
Who, by the way, is in the back of the cruiser. This really stood out to me. Like, this man is in handcuffs sitting behind them, and they're not talking to him at all this entire ride.
Does this information help prepare our city any better for the next time this happens?
That's a good question. I don't know if it's ever going to happen the same way it did. This THP operation, like I said raid a minute ago, and that's the wrong term, right? Like that's if they go to an employer or a place people live and they target a single area. This was like the term Dragnet's been used 100 times, but it was a really broad sweeping hunt for people on state roads. I don't know if that will happen again, but I do think it gives some insight to some of the weak points in doing that. Like, how do you transfer people to a single facility? How aware is the city and people in the city going to be if this happens again? Because this is 5 days in and even the troopers aren't sure of what's going on and Metro wasn't prepared to be taken over. But I don't know if anyone's more prepared next time, because I don't know that anyone involved or concerned about it is better off after it happened.
Yeah. Well, finally, early voting is...
Well...
Yeah, there's not much of a transition there.
Yeah. There's no good segue out of that.
No. Early voting has ended in the Tennessee 7th Congressional District special election primary to replace former U.S. Representative Mark Green, one of our 3 congressmen, since Nashville got cracked into 3 districts via Republican gerrymandering. As of the time of this taping, only 6,860 voters have cast their ballots here in Davidson County, which is less than 6% of eligible voters.
Ugh.
Yeah. The primary election date is next Tuesday, October 7th, and that'll be your last chance to choose your candidate for the general election on December 2nd.
Folks, I don't understand this behavior. Like, seriously, I do not care what side you're on, but to have less than 6% of our community step up to have a voice over who controls our fate in Congress and our funding and who takes care of our veterans and people on disability, like, that's insane to me. What the heck is going on?
Well, voter turnout in Tennessee is always very bad.
Yeah. This is extra very bad.
It's a weird time of year. You don't usually vote at the beginning of October.
Yeah, and I think people being apathetic and losing faith in politicians in general plays into this a little bit. Like, just because of the current conditions, some folks are really just focused on making ends meet and don't really have the mental capacity to stay involved in local politics, which is a bummer because I'm someone who thinks local politics have more an impact. And that's all not to make excuses, but I think if you can find the time to research the candidates and vote, I would implore all residents of that district to do so.
It's also worth noting, because turnout is so low, it's anyone's game. Like, it's very rare that turnout is this low and there are this many kind of evenly footed, relatively low name recognition candidates on both sides. Even a Democrat stands a better chance than usual at winning the general in December. And so whichever one candidate can get, a couple thousand people to show up is going to win the primary. And then, that makes the general far more competitive than recent congressional elections in Tennessee have been.
The gerrymandering was designed to dilute the power of Nashville voters within our congressional elections here in Tennessee. But we're still giant. We still have a lot of people who live in this city. And I think what makes me sad is that no matter which party you're on, your leader is now going to be someone who was picked by folks who live in other places.
I guess I'll say another not excuse for people, but the gerrymandering you're talking about is a lot of why people don't vote. Like, I've had several conversations in the last 2 weeks since early voting started with people who don't know what district they're in living in Nashville, because it's not made to be simple for you.
So let's take one last quick look at these candidates before Tuesday's primary. I love how I say quick, and then I'm going to go on a bit of a run here. Sarah Grace, you've been watching all their ads, and there were also a few stories this week about where their funding is coming from. So let's start on the Republican side. According to the Tennessean, $2.1 million in dark money from out-of-state groups has poured into that race from political action committees funded by billionaires, including Jeff Bezos. More than half of that has gone to attack ads against State Rep Jody Barrett, who opposed Governor Lee's voucher program. And then I think this might be the key. He also opposed the recent Tennessee state franchise tax refund that sent hundreds of $millions to corporations like Amazon, which is owned by Jeff Bezos, as well as FedEx, Nissan, and the governor's own HVAC company. But Sarah Grace, how can opposing Jody Barrett possibly be worth so much money to these people? Or is it that it's not that much money to these people?
$2 million is definitely not to Jeff Bezos what it is to us or anyone listening to this. But this is an important election. And the same anomaly of the weird time of year and how few people are going to vote that makes it actually possible for a Democrat to win for once makes this very important to the Democrats and the Republicans on a federal level, because there's such a narrow House majority that on the still slightly off chance a Democrat pulls it off here, that really messes up Republican votes. I mean, we are shut down right now because they can't have the majorities that they need. This is not the direction they're trying to go. It also, it has a ripple effect. Every special election that has happened since Trump's second term began has moved significantly away from the right, like double-digit points in most cases, but none of them, when this election had started, none of them had won any elections. So there still hadn't been a flipped seat. So if that happens, that starts to invigorate people to vote and flip seats in the midterms next year. So not only this one very crucial House seat, but kind of the ripple effect in the next year is what the federal implication of this is, and why people like Bezos care about this Tennessee district.
So you're saying that Nashville kind of holds the mood of the electorate in its hands with this vote?
Yeah, which makes it even crazier that no one's turning out to vote, because whether it's progressives in Nashville or it's MAGA conservatives in the surrounding counties that are also in this district, more than 6,000 people care who gets that seat. Why are only 6,000 people voting?
Well, one of the Democratic candidates has also drawn scrutiny this week for the loan he made to his own campaign. Darden Copeland, who runs public affairs firm Calvert Street Group, loaned himself $125,000 for his campaign coffers. That's obviously way less than $2.1 million. We interviewed him on our show that we did interviewing the top candidates in this race, and he was probably the most moderate of the Dems we spoke to. But the Nashville Scene reported this week that he's also done a pretty good job of keeping his day job on the DL. As Eli Monica reported, quote, his campaign materials do not mention his significant personal wealth earned by running corporate campaigns, some directly for billionaire interests, like Bristol Motor Speedway's NASCAR push at the Fairgrounds Nashville and the new Titans Stadium. Copeland has not disclosed his current clients nor shared his plans to avoid perceived conflicts of interest if elected. Sarah Grace, do you see this information changing anything in the electorate as far as people's response to Mr. Copeland goes?
Just to be really clear, it's not a value judgment on Copeland or where he gets his money, but I don't think he's hidden the ball on this. Like, everyone knows who he's with. Like, while Bo Mitchell talks about his more humble childhood and not having access to healthcare, and that's very much the platform he's running on, Copeland has been clear that he's had a successful business and is running as the moderate. I would say the one thing it contradicts of the way that Copeland has run is that he will say he's not a politician because he's not been elected, and the other three Democratic candidates are all in the legislature, which he thinks behooves him because they have baggage. So while he doesn't have a voting record, I think someone who's been involved in that level of consulting and involved in very political local projects, it's hard to argue that you're like new to politics. He's not some random business owner. You know, he's very much connected and involved. And I think this just highlights that very real part of his brand as well.
Primary day, Tuesday, October 7th. If you're in the 7th Congressional District, you've got to vote. If you need to know more reasons why, come to Fridays by the River.
And check out our episode. To be honest, it's one of my, like, as the producer of this show, it's one of my favorite that we've ever put out there. I think it's really informative and helpful.
We'll make sure that's in the show notes for all of you to listen to over the weekend so you can make up your minds and make a plan to go vote on Tuesday. Sarah Grace, do you know our song?
No.
Well, so it goes dunna, dunna, and then you just go, good news. You ready?
Okay.
Dunna, dunna.
Good news.
We'll accept it. Ladies and gentlefolk, our boys in gold, Nashville SC, are U.S. Open Cup champions. For the first time in club history, we've won a trophy. And more importantly, for the first time in Tennessee history, we have won a major professional sports championship. It's a huge deal. I feel like this is something that this club has been building to for years. And frankly, it's just going to juice us going into the playoffs where we will hopefully win the cup, the whole big cup.
The whole shebang.
It's coming home. What are the British people saying about the World Cup? It's coming home. Anyway, there is one last regular season home game on October 18th if you want to get down to Geodis and celebrate these guys before they head into the playoffs. I do want to go on just a brief rant, which is that, no exaggeration, I almost died walking out of Geodis Park on Saturday night when my friend and I were nearly hit by a car coming off the interstate that did not look left or right or left again before they barreled out into the crosswalk. And so just taking a brief editorial moment here to beg our city leaders to give us better lighting, better sidewalks, and clearer crosswalks coming out of Nashville SC games before somebody gets hurt.
I love your rants, Whitney. Love them.
I have a platform. I'm going to use it.
Well, in some not so good sporting news, the Tennessee Titans are off to a rough start, y'all. They are 0-4, and their rookie QB Cam Ward made headlines this past weekend after their 26-0 loss to the Houston Texans. In two eloquent words, he said, "We ass."
Self-awareness is important.
Yeah, self-awareness is so important. The reaction to Cam's comments were mixed, but I personally love the brutal honesty here. I think a lot of Titans fans are rightfully pissed at the product that's being put on the field right now. And in the spirit of Cam's brutal honesty, I'm just going to say it. As the Titans work to secure season ticket holders ahead of their new stadium, I sometimes feel like they've become more of a tourist attraction than a home team. Almost like an entertainment stop where visiting fans come to cheer on their own team. So it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out with the new stadium. I think it only holds around like 60,000 people, which will make it the smallest capacity in the NFL. I'm pulling for the Titans to turn it around, and I think
no, you're not. a Chiefs fan.
I am a Chiefs fan. I'm very excited to watch them smoke them in December, but I have a lot of friends who are Titans fans. So for their happiness, I root for them.
You're an ally?
Yeah, I'm an ally for the Titans. I think they'll be back, but yeah, things are rough right now.
Well, Daniel, that was your soapbox for the week, and I enjoyed it. Thank you so much. Sarah Grace, we asked you to bring some good news. Would you like to share some with us?
I guess I'll stay on your sports theme, which is I'm a Mariners fan, so MLB playoffs thrill me. Oh, no.
Sarah Grace, I was born and raised in Houston, Texas. Do we need to take this outside?
Oh, for a long time, the Cubs were my least favorite team because I grew up a Cardinals fan. But I think the Astros are the worst team in the MLB. So
yeah, that's okay. We don't think of you at all.
Oh.
Wait, are you in the playoffs right now? Just wondering.
No, and I'm really happy for you. Frankly, I'm relieved. I needed the time off. All right. What's happening this weekend? That last Haunted Ryman tour is tonight. So get down there and go say hi to the ghosts for us. You can buy tickets on the Ryman website. And this weekend is also Oktoberfest. So get the lederhosen out of your closet and or avoid Bicentennial Park if you don't want to be accosted by drunk people in lederhosen.
I'm not kidding. I did not know that was this weekend. And I live very nearby and it ruined my life last year. So this is very important news to me. Thank you.
Also on Sunday night at Marathon Music Works, it's Get Out, Get Loud, a benefit concert for Nashville Pride. It's going to be a night of great drag performances and live music from artists like Brooke Eden, Shelley Fairchild, and one of my favorites, Katie Pruitt. Pride is making up for the budget shortfall that happened this year after a bunch of their corporate sponsors pulled out, and festival attendance got wrecked by the thunderstorms this year.
And it's also Borough Pride down in Murfreesboro tomorrow from noon to 6. So y'all head on down to the MTSU campus and show your support. That organization has faced even more challenges than our Nashville Pride, including the mayor of Murfreesboro attempting to deny them permits. So they'll have food trucks, live music, and even a karaoke room. Take a little road trip, go see our neighbors, and celebrate Pride, y'all. And then last but not least, never least, Fridays by the River. It's tonight 3 to 8 in Shelby Park by the boat ramp down by the river. Tonight's musical guest is Stacey Antonell with food trucks, Birria Babe, The Mac Shack, Nicoletto's, Lady Dogs, and King of Pops. We are proud to continue to be the presenting sponsor of this event. Sarah Grace, do you want to come have a beer?
Yeah, come hang.
It's chiller than Oktoberfest.
We actually have a work happy hour today, too. There's something in the weather. You know, it's October. Everyone wants to go outside, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We'll give our hugs to everybody else on the Banner staff. And hey, I did happen to notice the Banner, Nashville Banner has been making a push this week to pick up more newsletter subscribers. And folks, I heartily endorse this subscription. Head on over to NashvilleBanner.com.
It's not even really a subscription. It's free. We just need your email.
Sign up for that mailing list. You won't regret it. Sarah Grace, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks, everyone.
That's all for today here on CityCast Nashville. And don't forget, you can support this show and get great perks by becoming a CityCast Nashville neighbor, just like Kelly H. did at membership.citycast.fm. Our vacationing host is Marie Cecile Anderson. Hope Iceland is nice, Marie. Our executive producer is me, Whitney Pastorek. Our producer is Daniel Sumstein. Our Hey Nashville newsletter editor is Margaret Kingsbury. Our theme music is by Prof. Jenkins, and we had additional newsletter editing support this week from Selena Say Reynolds and Natalia Aldana. If you enjoyed the show, why not tell your friends? Rate the show, leave us a review, and subscribe to our Hey Nashville newsletter. We'll be back Monday morning with more news from around the city. Y'all take care of each other.